everybody, it's Brock and we got a brand new episode of All About. Today, we're going to be building a saltwater tank on a budget. I want to make this video because a lot of people are interested in the hobby, but are unsure how much it costs. And there's one thing I've always tried to do since being in the hobby and working in the fish store, and it's doing a lot with a little. I recently started an Instagram so y'all could easily reach out to me, share pictures of your fish and corals, and allow me to help you out with any questions or issues you might be running into. Follow me if you haven't already. I'd love to chat. Since being on it, I'm now seeing a ton of short form content and influencers in the saltwater hobby. I'm noticing this trend of people posting videos of them starting their very first saltwater aquarium, and it's extremely expensive compared to what I started out with. Don't get me wrong, I love somebody that can get the best of the best equipment and build a beautiful tank, but not everyone can start out that fancy. One of the first builds videos I saw started out with them showing they had gotten 4 radions over the tank. And if you don't know, those radions can cost $1,000 each. So if I was new to the hobby and I saw someone telling me the lights alone were going to cost thousands of dollars, I might reconsider getting to the hobby. One of my favorite saltwater tanks I've built was my 55-gallon reef tank. So we're going to break down the total cost of that tank built in today's prices. This reef tank is from 8 years ago, and I feel like it really proved how much you could accomplish with very little. Thank y'all for being here, and let's dive in. Also, before I get started, I'm not sponsored by any of these products or stores in the video. This is stuff I've used and liked and will recommend it after using it myself. So, the tank is an Aqueon standard open glass aquarium, 55 gallons. Dimensions are 48 inches by 14 inches and 21 inches tall. This tank currently costs $200 on Petco, but I'll be honest, I see them doing half off deals all the time on these Aqueon tanks. So you could get a steal if you look out, especially during holiday season coming up. Now my 55 gallon actually sat on a piece of furniture, but they do make stands if you need a place to set it. The brand name solid wood stands will cost you about $400 depending on where you buy it from. And then obviously you can go with some of those more budget friendly metal stands that I've seen people put together. You're going to need a filter, and this 55 gallon ran on a Marineland BioWheel Emperor 400 that hangs on the back. Now, based on their stats, this is rated for 80 gallons, but for a 55 gallon, I personally wouldn't go lower than the Penguin 350 for this tank size. The Emperor 400 costs roughly $90 on Chewy right now. This is an easy plug and play filter. Just make sure you fill it up with water before turning it on, and the filter comes with 2 E-size cartridges, one on the left and one on the right, and this will allow for mechanical, biological, and chemical filtration that you need for that saltwater tank. Also a plus is the compartments in the back are fairly large and can allow you to add additional filtration like polyfilter. I always recommend changing these blue filters out once a month when you do your water changes. You can get a 4-pack of these filters on Chewy for $14. I always recommend people to get a heater. One of my favorites is from Eheim. Their Jaeger heater rated for 55 gallon is the 150 watt, which costs you $32 from Bulk Reef Supply. These heaters are very easy to use, they're completely submersible, and they have an auto shut off that gives you that peace of mind. Put it in the corner of your tank, set the temp, and never have to worry about it again. Up next, we have the power head. This is another reason I made this video because I saw a starter build and they brought in 2 MP40s, and I don't know if y'all know, but those are well over $400. The top of the line power head, but not what you need starting out, especially if you're on a budget. I can't remember the brand of power head that was in this 55 back then. I guess they might have went out of business or got a new name, but I could not find it after some Googling. So I'd recommend one great power head for beginners is the Substrate. It's an extreme 3500 wave pump. It'll do 925 gallons per hour, and it's rated up to 70 gallons. Plug and play, it blows 1 speed, and you'll be having plenty of wave motion in that tank. They cost $90 from Bulk Reef Supply. They're small, so they don't take up a ton of room in the tank, and they have a great warranty behind them. Now we have the lighting. On the 55 gallon, it's from 10 years ago when T5 bulbs were still a huge thing in the market. So it had 4 T5 bulbs up in the fixture. Nowadays, you're really just seeing a lot of high output LEDs. Great entry-level lights that we trusted at the shop to grow basic corals, or just have some bright lights above your saltwater tank, or the Reef Brights. A 48-inch 5050 Lumilight Pro LED strip will cost you $275. 5050 just means it's essentially half the LEDs are going to be blue, and the other half are white. It gives a really nice look over the tank. So now we got the bare bones to run the tank. let's put some stuff in it. You're gonna need some sand. I'd recommend getting some aragonite sand from KFC. They also have a ton of live sand, which essentially is just good bacteria to put in the tank at the beginning. Now keep in mind, if you are using live sand, you pour everything into the tank, including that water that's in the bag. If you're not, and you're using a dry sand, you need to wash that sand out. Just keep in mind, if it's a live bag of sand, pour the whole thing in the tank, because you're gonna get that beneficial bacteria that's in there. I'd recommend a 40-pound bag for a 55-gallon. That will give it over 1 inch deep of sand, which is good for your gobies or your jawfish that you might get, and it'll cost you about $42. Now let's get some rock. You usually want a mixture of dry and live rock. That way you get some beneficial bacteria, and it's a little bit easier on the budget, but it's up to you. You can go all dry, because it'll eventually turn into live rock, or you can get all live rock. The only difference is that live rock already has the bacteria on it. This 55-gallon had only dry rock starting out. The general rule is 1 pound of rock per gallon of water. You don't have to hit that exact number, but I would buy at least about 40 pounds to give enough rock to make a cool structure. It gives a lot of benefits to the tank on filtering. It just does the job it needs to do. A 40-pound box on Chewy is $80, and then you can get fancy with it and get some of the KFC Life Rock. Has some really cool shapes, some cool bridges and islands that you can make. So you'd usually spend about $100 on rock. You can easily spend money on rock if you're wanting to get some really cool shapes. Usually costs a little bit more. Most places will sell it for $2 to $5 a pound for dry rock, and then it gets a little bit more expensive if you're getting live rock. Now we have to put some water in it. If you have a local fish store, they typically mix it themselves, and you can buy it by the gallon. If you don't, I'd recommend buying reverse osmosis fresh water and a bag of salt and mixing it yourself. Pre-mixed water online, really expensive, so I would just recommend buying the bags and mixing it yourself. I recommend Instant Ocean Salt. I've used it the entire time in the hobby since starting back in 2014, so I obviously trust it. They sell 50-gallon bags of salt for $22, so you'll have to get 2 of those just in case, and you can always use the additional salt for water changes later on. You can get reverse osmosis water really anywhere for about $1.50 a gallon. Do not go out and buy spring water or some crazy alkaline flavored water. Just your basic water. Look at the ingredients somewhere near there. It'll tell you that it went through reverse osmosis. To mix it, you can use a bucket and a power head you bought. Pour the water in, turn that power head on, and then the salt is just based on the directions on the bag. I think it's so many cups per gallon, so just do the math and get to mixing. Just make sure don't pour that entire bag of salt into 1 bucket of water. Remember, 1 bag of salt is gonna make 50 gallons of salt water. So at this point, you have everything to start a saltwater tank. So what are we up to? Tank was 200, stands 400, filters 90, heaters 32, power heads 90, lighting was 275, sand 42, rock was about 100, salt 42, water $82.50, bringing us to a total of $1,353.50 for a complete saltwater setup that mimics what I had for this 55-gallon reef tank. There are a couple optional things that you can get, which were in this 55-gallon. One of them was a Reef Octopus 100 hang on the back protein skimmer, which I looked up the price for today and was surprised to see it sitting at $320. But it's a bad to the bone filter, especially if you're going the reef route. Protein skimmer removes organic waste, uneaten food, and other impurities by making micro bubbles of your water and collecting them in a cup for you to clean. The other thing is a mag float glass cleaner, which will run you about $30. A bunch of brands have these. Essentially, it has 2 pieces. One's in the tank and one's on the outside. They magnetize together, and you're able to clean the inside and outside of your tank as you move it around the glass. Very convenient. Definitely recommend it. Now, as you can see, with this little bit of equipment, this tank had leathers, zoas, allies, star polyps, mushrooms, anemones, green bubbles, cocoa worms, hammers, candy canes, cup corals, torches, and more. All ran on a hang-on-the-back filter and some T5 bulbs. No sump, no auto dosers, no radions, just determination to do the most with a little. Now at this point, you have options. You can find cheaper brands to save some cash. You definitely can look up and coming brands. You can find cheaper prices on things like your heaters, your filters, your lights. There's tons and tons of different options out there. In my personal opinion, I would try to shop for this stuff on your saltwater aquarium shops, because they're going to have most of the name brand things that you can trust. You go on places like Amazon, you might have a ton of products showing up that aren't your actual trusted name brand saltwater makers. Now you might also ask yourself, do I want a 55 gallon or something smaller to save some money? Or would I like to even go bigger than that? Also a possibility. If I had to pick one tank size that I thought was the perfect entrance into saltwater, it would actually be a 75 gallon tank, which is what I currently have. And I can break down that one in another video, but the reason I went from a 55 to a 75 was the width. I really like creating a cool live rock structure, and the corals were getting bigger and bigger. The 12 to 14 inches they give you on that 55 gallon is much tighter than you realize. It'll get filled up quick. From these older videos, you can see this toadstool leather on the left, and it was touching both the front and the back of the tank. It had gotten so big. Also, the reason I recommend a 75 is it opens you up to so many saltwater fish choices. Some people go into it with a 20 gallon tank, which I did the same exact thing getting into the hobby, and you find out that so many fish need more room, and you only have a few options of what you can put in that 20 gallon, like a clownfish and a damsel. But if I get the 75, I can now get wrasse, cardinals, angels, just so much more to choose from, and you're not tied down to that tank size. Another great thing for beginners is that you're gonna make mistakes. There's a lot to learn, and having more water volume means less of a chance that the entire tank crashes overnight. Usually, if things are starting to go wrong, it's going to give you enough time to notice them and fix them before it takes out the entire thing. Now, I could go on and on about this, but I think I'll stop the video right here. I wanted to keep it as short and sweet as possible because you already have a ton to look into now. I've shown you what it takes bare bones equipment-wise, what it takes to put on the inside, and where you can end up in this reef tank. Doing a lot with very little. I'm thinking I can just continue this series. Maybe the next thing can be setting up the tank, then a video on maintenance, and so forth. For my subscribers, if you have some recommendations on equipment or tanks that you're using right now that's better priced or things are on sale, leave it down below for the new reefers to check out. If you have Instagram, give me a follow and reach out if you need help with anything along the way. I'd be happy to help you out. Can't thank y'all enough for tuning in and watching this all about video. Stay safe, be kind, and I'll see y'all later.